as a financial advisor for over 20 years, unfortunately, I've heard a lot of regrets from retirees, things that they wish they would have done before working with me. So let's go for a walk. I'm going to share some of these with you in the hopes that you can avoid making them as well. And one of the most painful regrets that folks share with me is, over time, like anything, you have to invest in it. And it is losing relationships with adult children. Retirees say, I feel more distance from my adult children. And sometimes if we're waiting for our kids to call us, we may not get the time with our kids. We may not have the experiences that we need to keep building those meaningful relationships. And so that can be a big regret. And the longer it goes, the harder it is to rebuild that. So that's a bad regret. I start off with that because it's a wake-up call. I've got several more like that at the end. But first I want to share some other regrets that aren't as big. But stay to the end because there's some big ones like that towards the end. Okay, the second one is people say they couldn't visualize being retired when they're in their 50s and early 60s, when they could have retired early. And they regret having not retired early because they had the financial assets to do it. They just couldn't visualize, what retirement would look like for them and how to transition from their work identity to their retired identity. But, whether you do it now or you do it in 5 years or in 10 years, that transition is in front of all of us. We all have to take that journey. And I can tell you the vast, vast majority of people, once they make that transition and they're on the other side and they're enjoying retired life, they really wish that they had done it sooner. So since you have to make that transition at some time in your life, why not make that transition sooner rather than later? Okay, another one is, remember, when you first retire, that is when you are the youngest and the most vibrant and have the most energy. And a lot of folks regret that they didn't sell assets that were holding them down from pursuing some dreams that they really wanted to do. Maybe it's world travel. Maybe it's moving to a new state. Maybe it's moving closer to the grandkids. They regret not selling these assets, and primarily most of them are related to their house, right? Where their house is. They've lived in their house a long time. Maybe they've raised their family in that house and they were hesitant to sell it. And maybe they did eventually, but maybe that took 3, 4, 5 years until they made the decision to sell the house and they had given up some of their healthiest, most active years. I do want to share, if you're 60 years old, most of us, and I'm real close to 60, we have less than 1,000 weeks remaining of healthy active time. That's not a lot of time. So, waiting 3, 4, 5 years to sell your house is a big deal at our age. So that's another regret. Okay, the next one is folks regret that they did not get rid of their debt sooner. If they had gotten rid of their debt sooner, they would have felt the freedom in order to retire early. And if they did retire anyways, they would have felt the freedom to pursue some dreams that maybe they said, I still have this mortgage I got to pay, or we've got 2 new cars. And we still have, between 2 cars, it's easy to have $1,000 a month car payments. So they regret having that as opposed to freeing themselves up from that debt, whether that means selling the new cars and buying less expensive ones and getting rid of the car loan, or it means selling the house like I talked earlier. Okay, the next one that people regret is not having a financial plan from the beginning. And the reason they regret that is if you don't have a financial plan, you very well may be sacrificing unnecessarily, or you may be jeopardizing your future life because you're overspending. And if you don't have a plan, you don't know. And if you do a plan yourself, the challenge is most of us live our life once. So for most people, this is the first time you're doing a financial plan. I think when it comes to a core fundamental idea like making sure you know what the game plan is and how much you can spend and having the confidence that comes with that, I think it probably makes sense for most people to work with a fee-only financial advisor. You can find one by just Googling that term. I should say none of today's video is financial advice. I don't know your situation, so unfortunately I can't give you financial advice. And related to a plan, I also want to caution you, without a plan, it's super easy for your goalpost, for that financial finish line, to keep getting pushed back, right? It always feels better to have more money. But what we're dwindling away, while we're focused over here on, the bank accounts, which is easy to quantify, what's going on over here is time is slipping away, right? And there are other ways to make money. Unfortunately, there are no ways to make time. So it can always feel good, it can feel more secure, and it can feel like you're making the right decision by saying, I'm going to work one more year. But you're also sacrificing your one more year, which happens to be likely your healthiest, most active year. So be careful. Don't let that happen to you. Another thing I don't want to have happen to you is I want to stress that the enemy for most financial plans is behavioral aspects, how we behave when the stock market goes up and down. So having a plan that you can stick with. And enemy number 2 is inflation, right? Figuring out a way to keep up with inflation and hopefully beat inflation over time is really important, and factoring in what inflation can look like. Because if you have, let's say we have 4% inflation. Hopefully we get back down to 2% inflation, but let's say it stays at 4%. In under 20 years, 4% inflation, the cost of everything in theory is going to double during that period of time. So that's why inflation is enemy number 2, and unfortunately enemy number 1 for your financial plan is just our emotions and how we react when we're scared of what's going on in the stock market, and then when we're greedy when things are going on really well. Okay, another common regret is people cannot buy back their time, and they cannot buy back their health. So people regret, and we've talked about time a lot, we haven't talked much about health, but people regret not investing more in their health sooner. Okay, the next one is investments. We've spent some time talking about investments, but chasing last year's return and running away from scary periods of time and changing your allocation based on your emotions, based on fear and greed, as opposed to changing your allocation between stocks and bonds based on your life, where you're at from a cash flow needs. Maybe, you've been spending a lot of money, you've been following your dreams and doing big adventures, and now it's time to kind of slow down. And you say, I don't need as much money now, so I'm going to de-risk my portfolio. That's fine. That's absolutely fine, and you should do that. But what you should not do is say, ooh, the market's scary, it's down 20%, and I'm going to sell because I'm scared. That will get you in trouble in a hurry. Okay, another regret, and this sounds silly, but it can cost you tens of thousands of dollars. So hopefully I'm saving you tens of thousands of dollars with this piece of advice. And that is, when it comes time to retire, think about when you give notice at work, right? Let's say bonuses are given out at the end of the year. If you tell your boss in November, hey, January 1, I'm going to be leaving my job, there's a good chance you might get squeezed out of your bonus, right? So and this is the retire early guy, but can you wait till February or March to give that notice so you don't lose those types of things? Also, I have had clients say, there was this really cool assignment in Paris for 2 years, and I wanted to throw my hat in the ring. So, maybe don't talk about retiring until you see if you're going to get that cool assignment, because that can be an adventure in itself, right? I don't want people just postponing retirement because they're fearful of the transition. But if you're postponing the retirement because you have this great opportunity that you and your family is excited about, that's a very different story. Okay, and just some of the big ones here is, not saving enough. Some other regrets is not saving enough in their 30s, 40s, and 50s and having to catch up quickly. And then making unnecessary sacrifices that cause them to lose their health, right? Working way too many overtime hours, working on the weekends, or even, health and then relationships, not being able to spend enough time with the family. I don't want to see you make any of of those mistakes. And I also don't want you to miss out on these secrets that early retirees know that a lot of people don't. And that's what this video is here, is secrets early retirees know. I encourage you to watch it. Thanks for watching this one, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.